This is Natural Selection Lesson 1.6, Activity 3. This is the last activity in Chapter 1 of Natural Selection Unit. This is where you are going to be finalizing everything you should know in this first chapter. So make sure that if you don't feel like you understand that, you show up to Zoom so that we can talk about it. All right, so let's get started with the activity. So we're going to return to our population of newts and consider what we know about the rough-skinned newts so far. We know the effect we're investigating is the change distribution of traits in the newt population, and that is that there are more highly poisonous newts now than there were in the population 50 generations ago, which we can see here on the histogram. So population 50 generations ago, a large distribution, a low level, but now 50 generations later we have a large distribution at the high poison level. So given everything we've learned about populations, variation, and trait distribution, we're going to review the evidence we have to think about the causes for this change. So let's consider these two facts. Since the time when the data was collected 50 generations ago, the distribution of traits in the population has shifted significantly. Now, many more individuals have poison level 10, whereas there was barely any 50 generations before. Since the time the data was collected 50 generations ago, snakes became part of the newt's environment. So what we need to think about is how could these facts be related? So you're going to think to yourself right now how these facts could be related. So pause the video and think about how these two facts, in other words, how does the idea or fact that snakes becoming part of the environments connect to poison level shifting so significantly over 50 generations? Pause the video, think about that. Okay, now that you have thought about that, we're going to move on to the next portion of the lesson. So we have a chapter question that we're trying to answer now, and that is what caused this newt population to become more poisonous? So claim 1 says that individual newts became more poisonous because they wanted to, and claim 2 says that the newt population became more poisonous because of something in the environment. So again, question is what caused this newt population to become more poisonous? And the two possible answers or claims that we were given is that they became more They became more poisonous because they wanted to, or they became more poisonous because something in the environment. So let's think about this. We know that claim 1 is refuted by evidence from the sim. In lesson 1.4 and the sim activity, the environment changed from warm to cold. Individuals with the non-adaptive trait of low fur level shivered and died. They couldn't just change to the adaptive trait of the high fur level. So that refutes this claim. That says that newts cannot just become more poisonous because they wanted to, because in that example that I give, the non-adaptive trait of low fur, those australopes, they would have grown more fur if they could. They wouldn't have chosen to not shiver and die. But they can't. So they shivered and died. So claim 1 is refuted by evidence. So we know that this cannot be the possible answer to the chapter 1 question. Now, claim 2 is supported by evidence, but it could be rewritten to be more specific and use science vocabulary. So let's look at a revised claim 2 now. So the revised claim 2 says the newt population became more poisonous because the snakes in this environment caused poison to be an adaptive trait. So what you're going to be doing in this activity is you are going to use what you've learned so far, and you're going to write an answer to the chapter 1 question. What caused this newt population to become more poisonous? So here's our 2 claims and our revised claim. So it says to choose one or more claims to support with evidence or reasoning. You may also want to explain why one or more of the claims is not correct. It would be very beneficial for you to write about claim 1 and explain why this one is not true, and then provide evidence and reasoning for revised claim 2. So you, using these words, you would do that down here. So this is basically 2 parts. Refute claim 1 and then support claim 2 with evidence. So write down everything that we've done that shows that claim 1 is not true, and then evidence for showing why claim 2 would be true. When you're done with this, so go to Amplify, complete this activity, and pause the video, and then come back to the video when you're done with this activity. So now that you're done with this activity, I need to talk about one more thing before we end this chapter. So we should all be pretty clear that claim 2 is the correct claim out of these 2. Claim 2 is the only claim that's supported with evidence, and it's an important piece of the explanation for why the newt population is becoming more poisonous. So by examining the evidence, we have one part of our explanation for Dr. Alex Young. Since we all agree on this part of the claim, we're going to add it as a reference to build an explanation for our unit phenomenon, or why the newts became more poisonous. And so from lesson 1.6 at this point, our explanation is that the newt population became more poisonous because the snakes in this environment cause poison to be an adaptive trait. So again, adaptive means that a trait that makes it more likely that an individual will survive in a specific environment. So in the presence of snakes, having poison made you more likely to survive. So your trait of poison made you more likely to survive. Therefore, newts that had poison were the ones that survived more than newts that did not have poison. So an adaptive trait is a trait that you have that makes you more likely to survive. So the newt population became more poisonous because the snakes in this environment caused that trait to be an adaptive trait. It caused that trait of poison to make the newts more likely to survive if they had that trait. Make sure you press hand in when you're done. And that is the end of this video.